Now, if you're a ChatGPT user, you probably know that a couple of weeks ago, they released ImageGen 2.0. This is their new image modeling tool. Now, if you've ever used Nano Banana 2, you'll know that that was primarily the best image tool out there. However, it did struggle with a few things, primarily text, whereas ChatGPT is much, much better with that. But in this video, I want to show you a couple of ways in which I personally would use this to create various different assets for working with a brand, working with web design, those kinds of cool things. And then I'm also going to show you ways in which you can expand what you can do here with some other tools. Now, nothing sponsored in this video. I pay for literally everything we're talking about here. ChatGPT, I pay for the premium account. I also pay for some of the other tools we're going to use as well. So no sponsorships whatsoever and nothing hidden. So let's crack on. So first things first, I want to create a kind of brand. Now I've kind of come up with an idea of what I want. So I'm going to use that as a starting point. So the whole point is I want to create a kind of 70s, 80s retro vibe brand for an IPA beer. This is the prompt that I've created for it. Tended exactly what I wanted to do, give it the name and so on. So we're going to get it to create a brand kit. We can use this then across lots of other things. This is a good way of starting, is that you're not sort of just dumping an idea in there. You're creating a starting point, a kind of blueprint that we can use in future versions and future iterations and things we want to do. So let's kick things off with this. We're going to let this go and take a few moments to come back with the initial starting point. And obviously you can refine from this point. You don't have to take everything you're given. You can use this as an iterative process. I kind of use this as a second pair of eyes, a second brain, someone I can bounce ideas off and brainstorm until I get closer to what I want. And when you work on your own as a freelancer, an individual, whatever, this is a really cool way of being able to get a kind of second pair of eyes to give you some feedback, give you some initial ideas, and then you can go to town with what you want to do. You don't have to take it exactly as it is. So let's let that run and come back and take a look at the results. Okay, and after a few moments, this is what we end up with. It's kind of in the vein of what I wanted, the whole sort of crazy kind of retro vibe to it, the retro colors, the retro kind of font styling and so on. So the primary logo, the kind of secondary logos, the color palette, the typography that's being used. But taking all that aside, take a look at the actual result. Everything here is written out correctly. There's no screwed up kind of text on here. All the words make sense. This is something you didn't always get with other versions of the AI image. And you don't always get this when you're using Nano Banana. So if you want to create things like infographics and kind of articles, posters and so on, this is a really good starting point and a really good tool to be able to use because you are going to get much better results. But let's say we quite like the look of this. Obviously, like I say, I could go through some iterative process to get some feedback, but we've got everything we need to hit the ground running. So this is now going to be our starting point. So next thing, describe the edits. I don't want to edit anything on there, but we want to use that now to start creating some product images. So let's do that. So there's my prompt. I wanted to create an image of the beer can mock-up using the logo from the brand kit, how I want to place it, the type of lighting and so on. So this is where we are kind of doing everything ourselves. So let's see what results we come back with here. While we're waiting for that, let's just jump over to a way in which we can guide this to get it closer to what we may want. So I've just hopped over to Dribble and I'm going to use this as a kind of source of inspiration if I want to kind of guide ChatGPT to what I want it to do. So you can see we've got a bunch of different craft beer designs, there's illustrations and so on. If you have an account, you can simply log in, you get more control or filters and so on. But you could go through, find something you like. Say, for example, you quite like the look of this, or we've got something else here. If you want to guide the logo and so on, or let's say you want to kind of have something like this where you've got multiple products, or you want some brand treatment like this, you could just go in and tell it exactly what you want. So let's just copy this. So we'll take a screenshot. We can copy that and we can use that to guide ChatGPT. But before we do, let's take a look at the result. And that looks pretty good. Did exactly what I said I wanted it to do. I didn't tell it any aspect ratio, so we haven't got that kind of control here, but we could go in and describe the edits that we want. But that looks pretty damn good. It's kept the logo, kept the branding, kept everything we want there. It's done exactly what we want. I said a skateboard in the background, although the skateboard does look a little bit mangled, maybe. But you've got the product shot and everything there, which looks pretty good. Before moving on, let's take a quick message from today's video sponsor, ShortPixel. A slow image is slowing your website down. And Short Pixel automatically compresses and optimizes your images with no visible quality loss. You can generate blazing fast WebP and AVIF versions, cut file sizes dramatically, and speed up your pages in just a few clicks. It's perfect for WordPress and beyond. Faster images, faster website, better SEO. Try Short Pixel today using the link in the description down below. But now let's say, like I said, we want to guide it. So we'll just pop in our source image. So we're now going to tell it exactly what we want to do. So let's send the prompt, let it go and do the same thing again. Now, while we're waiting for that to go, there's one limitation we have with ChatGPT, and that's the resolution. It doesn't do super high resolution images using the app itself. However, you can overcome that. If you have a Higgsfield account, which is what I have, and I use this for a lot of different use cases, some things we've seen before where we've done sort of hero videos and so on. If you come into the image section on here and you choose GPT-2 image, you can see we've got more controls here than we have inside the app itself or on the website. You can choose the number of iterations you want. You can choose the quality. You can choose the resolution, so up to 4K, and you can choose the aspect ratio, which you can actually do. You can control the aspect ratio inside the app and so on. But let's say you want to do 16:9, and you wanted to have 4 of these. You could simply choose 4. It's going to cost you 48 credits, and then you just put in the same prompt with the same information, upload the images you want, and you can get a much higher resolution. So if you wanted to use this for print, you wanted to use it for video and so on, then this is a good way of doing it. It does cost you a little bit more. You do need to have a Higgsfield account, but this costs you something like the basic account is like £37 or about $40 odd per month. If you can't make that back on the project, you're probably doing something wrong. But this gives you so many options. And then you can obviously animate them and do some cool things, which we will come back to and take a look at once you've got everything in place. And there we go. We now have our version based upon this original source image, but it has various different color versions of our brand. Everything is consistent. You can see it's quite cool. It's actually changed these to hazy and hoppy, juicy IPA, West Coast. So each one of these with a different color has a different version of the beer, which is pretty cool. They've got different sort of alcohol levels, which again is quite cool. But the things that are important here is the consistency with various different things. For example, 375 milliliters is the same on all of these. The little logo we've got there, the hop logo, is the same. The main brand logo is the same across all of these. We've got solid depth of field. We've got great product shots. Everything is in place for us. So if you want to create assets for a website or for brand marketing and so on, this is a really cool way of doing it. And we're creating all of this from our own initial ideas. But obviously you can simply use a brand you've already got in existence. You upload that in the same way where we created the brand identity kit, upload it and use that as the basis. Tell it you want to use that for the basis for everything. That will then use that and you'll have consistency based upon a pre-existing brand identity kit. So now we've created something like this. We've got this end result. What can we do with it? Well, let's do something like take this into Higgsfield and do something cool with it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this. We'll come over into Higgsfield and go into video. And we've got all the kind of key video models here. Cdance 2 is currently the best model you can get, but you've got Kling inside here if you want to use that. And let's say you want to actually take that one step further and create a full advert with multiple different scenes. You could use various different options inside Higgsfield to do that. And you can have up to 15 seconds per video clip. So you could create multiple clips, combine them, and have a fantastic end result. So now we can choose what we want to do. So let's get rid of this. We're going to upload that image we just created. So we'll say upload media. There's our image. Open this up. Let that upload. It'll then check to make sure that it's eligible, so it's not copyrighted. So that takes a few moments to go through and do what it needs to do. And you can upload multiple different sources should you want to. So there's lots of options here. But now we want to create kind of prompt. So we could type the prompt in ourselves, or we could use ChatGPT to do the same thing. So let's do that. So I'm just going to simply type in what I want and then get ChatGPT to actually create the prompt for me. So I've popped in what I want there. Let's send that prompt and then let ChatGPT create the prompt for us. As you can see, it goes through, tells it what lens it wants to use, the type of lighting, the motion, the mood, all those kinds of useful things. So now we can copy this from here, head back over into Higgsfield, click on here, check the eligibility. That's eligible, so that's cool. We can use that, so to select it. We'll drop our prompt in. If you want to add sound effects, we'll say, yes, we do. It's not going to cost us any more. Then we can say this is going to be 5 seconds in this example. 16:9 is what we want. You can choose between 480 up to 1080. There's no 4K at the moment, but you can upscale should you want to. So for this example, I'm going to leave it set to 720 because it's just a test. Obviously, 1080 is going to give you better. And it's going to cost me 23 credits. That's going to take a few moments now to generate based upon the prompt, the image we supplied it, and what we've asked it to do. Let's go and let it do that. Then we'll come back and take a look. Okay, let's check out the results. It's not quite what I had in mind, so maybe my prompt wasn't perfect. But it's not bad. Sure, the water on the bottom is a little bit weird. Let's just mute that a second. That's a bit strange. But the can itself looks absolutely phenomenal. The hand, the photography, the video, all those assets look really, really good. So with a little bit of tweaking, I'm sure you could get a really solid end result. But it's just another way in which you can combine these into a workflow. Now imagine you did a couple of these shots and you used this for a product launch for a client. The cost would have potentially been maybe tens of thousands to have a video crew, lighting crew, director, all those kinds of things. Even if you did it yourself, it would still take quite a bit of time setting up the environments and all those things, getting the lighting right and stuff. This allows you to very easily take those basic starting points we created our brand kit, taking it through the process, get to create this. Now, if you wanted to put a whole campaign together, you could create a video campaign, create posters, you could create adverts, all those kinds of useful things, all utilizing the same assets. So, for example, if you wanted to create images and things for product shots, share it on social media and so on. So if you wanted to use this and have the same consistent lighting and styling as that video with the prompt we used, I've told you to do exactly that. We've got the can on there. I've set it to set the aspect ratio so we can use this with something like Instagram. You can see how realistic this all looks. And it doesn't take any kind of rocket science to do this. You've seen how easy it is. All the text looks solid on there. The logo, the brand consistency, the consistency of everything about this, it's on point. ChatGPT's Image 2.0 really is super useful. It is not groundbreaking in comparison to some of the other ones we've seen. Like I say, Nano Banana has been fantastic, but Nano Banana does still struggle with text. This keeps that consistency and the text looks great. Then we've got a hero section for our website. Again, keeping the consistency across those cans, pulling in the color scheme. I've told you to be a bit more interested in the background, so it's a bit more vibrant, a bit more colorful. Again, this is a first iteration. You can update that. All the cans have got sort of condensation on them to show how cold it is. There's the shallow depth of field. They look like a pro photo shoot. I know I used to do that kind of thing. I used to do product shots and stuff for some of our clients in my design business before. This would have saved me so much time doing something like this and having this available to me. Hopefully you can see how useful this could be to you, how you could use this for brand ideas to start off with and take those brand ideas into video, into advertising, promotion, brand identity kit, so many different use cases, all inside a $20 per month plan, unless you want to do the video, obviously. But let's just say you had both of those and you were shelling out something like $60, $70 a month. You could easily be charging hundreds, if not thousands of dollars to put all this kind of thing together. And if you've got a client that already has their own brand kit, you can utilize that and carry on doing these kinds of things, but with their brand being kept intact along the whole process. Now, hopefully you found this video interesting and enlightening and it's shown you some of the things you could do with ChatGPT's ImageGen 2.0, how you could use Higgsfield and Seedance and so on to combine these various different things into a very powerful workflow. As always, all applicable links are in the description down below. My name is Paul C. This is WPTuts, and until next time, take care.